Erik Prince lanza ultimátum a la dictadura de Nicolás Maduro. Aseguró que ya se reunió con Donald Trump para tratar los planes acerca de una intervención en Venezuela y de cómo es necesario que muy pronto se le pueda dar de baja a esta dictadura lo antes posible. Pero antes de continuar con esta nueva historia, suscríbete a nuestro canal, síguenos en las redes sociales y dale a la campana de notificaciones para que no se pierda ni un solo segundo de todo este contenido que tenemos para ofrecerte. Capturados o 5 metros bajo tierra, así quieren todos a Nicolás Maduro, Diosdado Cabello y demás integrantes de ese régimen podrido en Venezuela, y desde luego, ese sueño está dispuesto a cumplirlo el líder del ejército Blackwater, Erik Prince, quien nuevamente salió al ruedo y mandó un fuerte mensaje a Maduro, asegurando que es hora de abandonar o tendrán que afrontar las terribles consecuencias.
And the Maduro regime, which is effectively a narco state. There's 34 major narcotic and meth production facilities in the country. They are...
So it's like petrometh, basically?
Petrometh,
That's
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Really bad people, and exporting leftist communist money to all the other political parties all across the continent. There's sanctions. I'm glad they're tightening down on the nonsense of U.S. oil companies there, but it's ultimately going to have to be, they're going to have to be pushed out. And it doesn't require U.S. military. It can be covert action from the intelligence community or covert action from Venezuelan patriots helped by outsiders, because ultimately the Maduro regime has to know that there are consequences to staying. And that's absolutely the U.S. It should be U.S. policy, because they're an absolute malign, extremely negative influence. Their military doesn't really believe them, or doesn't really support them. A few punches to the face and they will go. I trolled Maduro after they stole the election. And I said, if Biden and Harris actually want to support democracy in Venezuela, they should raise the bounties to 100 million each, sit back and watch the magic happen. Well, that led to a lot of people contacting me saying, please start a GoFundMe. We did that. It's called Yakazi Venezuela, which means almost there Venezuela. Raised some money for it. And I can assure you, my friends in Venezuela, things are in process to push the Maduro regime out. Look, Maduro is wanted, and the U.S. raised the bounty to $25 million. And I want the Maduro team to realize all the other people that have had $25 million bounties on them, what is their status today?
Not so good?
Not so good.
Yeah.
They're either 6 feet under or they're in the bottom of the Indian Ocean, like Osama bin Laden. So it's not going to end well. Leave now and let the Venezuelan people breathe free.
Recordemos que esta lucha de Prince viene desde meses atrás, o más bien desde que se confirmó el fraude electoral en Venezuela, situación que en su momento también fue denunciada por él y que además iba a hacer todo lo posible por ayudar a los venezolanos para salir de la miseria en los que los ha dejado el régimen.
Reason that Venezuela was called El Dorado, the city of gold, because there is unbelievable natural wealth in the ground. They have more oil than Saudi Arabia, more gold than you can imagine. But now the government there, the Maduro cartel, has been allowed to steal not one, not two, but 3 elections. This last round, this election that they just had in July, the opposition parties won 70% of the vote. Maduro won 30%. And of course, all the diaspora, all the people that have left Venezuela, that are living in the United States or Mexico or Colombia, Peru, are not permitted to vote. But even then, 70% of the people voted to oust these guys. They are backed by the Cubans, they're backed by the Iranians, they're backed by the Russians, and also they're taking it down the road of more poverty, more despair, more socialism. And to me, it's very concerning, because what they've done, the goal of kind of a state capture of a political party to where there's really not elections anymore, it's kind of what happens in California when the Democrats win those elections and the people in California are stuck with it. Now, a lot of them are voting with their feet, just like the people in Venezuela are voting with their feet and leaving. There's been another 1.5 million people just since July have left Venezuela. Trump is right to complain about Venezuela, because they've literally sent all their murderers. They emptied their prisons and sent them as illegals up in the United States. You have the Tren de Agua gangs active in New York and Colorado. took over some apartment buildings recently. It's just a mess. And I actually, after the election, I trolled Maduro by posting on X his wanted poster, because he's actually wanted for drug trafficking. There's a $15 million bounty. I said, if Biden and Harris want to support justice and actual democracy in Venezuela, they should up the bounties of these wanted criminals, of him, of Maduro, his interior minister, Cabello, and some others, and just up the bounties to $100 million apiece. They could use frozen funds of the Venezuelan government that the U.S. is already sitting on and sit back and watch the magic happen. They didn't do that, but it's really gone viral in Venezuela. They are expecting, they're really hoping people from America, people from freedom-loving countries will help them get rid of this Marxist socialist gang that is now fully oppressing the country, having rejected 3 elections where they lost, and now staying in power. The Cubans literally flew hundreds of additional security agents into the country. The Iranians are there in force, as are the Chinese. So it's the Monroe Doctrine is definitely dead by the United States allowing this kind of nonsense to continue. And it does affect us because it pushes more and more people from Venezuela into the United States. Some are great, some are not so great.
Pero que aún así, en esta lucha los venezolanos deberían de hacer su parte, porque de ellos también depende su libertad y no de un foráneo.
The freedom of Venezuela is ultimately in their hands. I'm not going to win it. It's not my struggle. It's their struggle. They came out to vote. They had a brave set of candidates, Maria Corina, Edmundo Gonzalez. They ran, they risked their lives campaigning, putting up with the abuse from the regime. They need to support their opposition widely. I'm just here to give some ideas and perhaps be a catalyst, but it's ultimately Venezuelans have to take back their country.
También hay que traer a esta fecha el momento en el que el Prince se fue contra muchos organismos internacionales, porque aún con tantas demandas encima contra los integrantes del régimen, no habían hecho nada.
So I hope that the Venezuelan people draw courage and prepare to push back and make the regime feel the will of the people. And the fact is, the gangster cartel is quite self-identified itself. You have a bounty of $15 million already on Maduro. It is not very common for the U.S. to have to indict a head of state unless it's really, really obvious. And the same for Diosdado Cabello, 10 million. And I'm sure there's many others, some public indictments and some sealed yet. So clearly the ruling class in Venezuela has a criminal problem.
Prince sabe lo que significaría para el hemisferio el derrotar a Nicolás Maduro en este 2025. Los planes ya están sobre la mesa y solo queda empezar a ejecutar para que vayan cayendo uno por uno en una rápida intervención internacional que el pueblo venezolano ha estado pidiendo a gritos desde hace muchos años. Si te gustó este contenido, síguenos y ayúdanos a compartirlo para seguir llegando a más personas y rincones en el mundo, para que todos estén al tanto de las últimas noticias de la política y de cómo se viven los últimos días de la dictadura de Nicolás Maduro en Venezuela.